You need a person who could actually put in place the systems. This is the biggest problem in Pakistan.
It's not a political appointment to be chairman of the English Cricket Board. The current chairman, Mohsin Naqvi, needs the right people to advise him. I don't know who advises him.
First test match, the pitch we saw, it actually suited the opposition, not Pakistan. So eventually when they lost, they realized, oh, we have to do something different.
I call proper cricket is what we've been watching in these test matches.
It was a great idea to use T20 cricket as a tool to introduce this game to all and sundry.
गुफ्तगू की इस नशिस्त में खुशामदीद। मेरा नाम एजाज हैदर है और आज मौजूए गुफ्तगू क्रिकेट है। आपको मालूम है मैं ज़्यादातर खेल के हवाले से प्रोग्राम नहीं करता, लेकिन चूंकि इस वक्त क्रिकेट की सीरीज़ हो रही है पाकिस्तान और इंग्लैंड की, और मेरे साथ जो दो मेहमानान हैं वो आप उनसे बखूबी वाकिफ़ हैं। मैं अभी आपसे तारुफ कराता हूँ। मोहम्मद आमिर सोहेल हमारे बहुत ही एग्रेसिव लेफ्ट हैंडेड ओपनिंग बैट्समैन थे। पाकिस्तान की कप्तानी भी उन्होंने की, और जो 92 का जो मैच था जिसमें हम जो वर्ल्ड कप हमने जीता, उसमें उनका एक बहुत ही कलीदी किरदार था। और अब जाहिर है वो बहुत अरसे से क्रिकेट के ऊपर तबसरा भी करते हैं, कमेंट्री भी करते हैं। तो मैंने आमिर से दरख्वास्त की एंड इज़ वेरी काइंड एंड सेड कि जो है ना यू लव टू पार्टिसिपेट। तो आमिर हमारे साथ हैं और उनके साथ डेविड गावर, again someone who doesn't need any introduction as far as the cricket fans are concerned, a very stylish left-handed batsman, also captained the English cricket team in 1985 during the Ashes series. तो ये जो प्रोग्राम है ये कुछ उर्दू में होगा, कुछ अंग्रेजी में होगा। जब हम जो है वो डेविड से बात करेंगे तो आगाज करते हैं प्रोग्राम का और बात शुरू करेंगे कि पाकिस्तान की जो क्रिकेट है उसका इस वक्त क्या हाल है। उसमें आमिर का तजिया लेंगे जो कि अंदर बाहर से पाकिस्तान की क्रिकेट को जानते हैं, और डेविड से भी तजिया लेंगे कि एज एन आउटसाइडर हाउ डज ही लुक एट द पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट टीम, and of course the peg will be this particular cricket series, but they're going to broaden the discussion also in relation to how Pakistan cricket can improve itself. लेकिन उससे पहले मैं एक क्लिप जो है वो प्ले करना चाह रहा हूँ आपके लिए, जो कि एक डिस्कशन है नासिर हुसैन और माइकल एचटन के दरमियान, जो पहला जो टेस्ट मैच हुआ उसके बाद उन्होंने क्या गुफ्तगू की, जरा उसको सुनते हैं और फिर बात को आगे बढ़ते हैं।
A little bit of forward planning and a forward thinking. I think that's what's lacking in Pakistan cricket. Even like with the venues, coming here, we didn't know where England were going to play. Still here, we sit here now, we don't really know where the third test. We don't know which pitch they're going to play on tomorrow for the second test. And that comes from behind the scenes and the changes that happen. I think you said in the paper today it was 26 different selectors. I read 27 the other in a different paper. 27 different.
Nobody can keep count.
No, you can't keep count in the amount of selectors. I mean, how many have England had? Rob, got 2 or 3 basically. 27, 26 different selectors, chairman of selectors, you know, everything, coaches, captains. So if you constantly change, name me one organisation that is successful, business or sport, that keep changing their manager or their chief exec or whatever. You know, I know one leads to the other. So when you have that much change, then you don't forward plan, you're very short term, and then you get to the first test and you lose, and then you think, right, I will drop Barber because he hasn't got any runs for 9 games. If that was the case, do it before, or give him 3 tests and say, we're going to give you a rest. I think he just deserved a little bit better than after 1 test. The issue is not Babar Azam, Shaheen Shah Afridi, Nazim Shah. The issue is behind the scenes in the way Pakistan cricket run their cricket. And some of it, you give them a bit of leeway because of the way the finances of the world game have gone with the big three, and they're picking up the scraps like other nations are. So I really feel for Pakistan cricket, and we mustn't be too harsh for them, but at times they shoot themselves in the foot.
ये आपने क्लिप सुना। आमिर, मैं आपसे बात का आगाज करूंगा, लेकिन उसमें ये अगर आप अंग्रेजी में बात करना चाहें तो वो आप करें, क्योंकि मैं चाह रहा हूं कि डेविड जो है वो भी आपके ख्यालात से जो है वो, before I go to David and ask his opinion, So anyway, I believe that this is not a critical, clip in the sense that it is empathetic. They're basically saying that don't give some leeway to the players, but there's something wrong with the structure of cricket. I mean, the administration of the management of cricket. So I just want to get your view on that, because you obviously know this inside out.
Basically, you can say it is behind the scenes, but it's more political. See, whenever there is a political regime change in Pakistan, they have to have their own guy in the Pakistan Cricket Board. Whether he does know anything about cricket or he doesn't know anything about cricket, that doesn't really matter for whoever is in charge. So when they bring in novices, they actually do not know what cricket requires at the moment. There were times when Pakistan needed somebody who had the marketing experience. For example, when Pakistan won the World Cup '92, we needed somebody with a know-how marketing. That person could have marketed Pakistan cricket in a huge way, bring in money, put in infrastructure, more in club cricket, things would have been different. Then there are times when you need a technical person. Then there is a time you need a person who could actually put in place the systems. But unfortunately, what we are getting in Pakistan Cricket Board, apart from a couple of names I could remember, one was Ramiz, the other one was Ijaz Butt, former cricketers of Pakistan. Ramiz was former captain of Pakistan. I think this is the biggest problem in Pakistan. And when a new chairman comes in, and it is a done thing all over the world. You bring in like-minded people. You bring in people who are going to say yes to you, rather than people who could challenge you. This has been the problem in Pakistan. And yes, Pakistan has no system. We have no club cricket. We haven't got very competitive first-class cricket. And that's why when you see a player coming into Pakistan, he's kind of wandering. There are a few players who come and adjust themselves very quickly, but they have plenty of experience.
But let me pick on one point before I take the discussion to David. Is it important, or let me put it like, is it really significant that any chairperson of the board should be a former cricketer, or should he or she be an excellent manager, administrator who understands and can actually build a team and create a structure and then institutionalize it?
Well, your answer is the answer I gave with your first question. You have to recognize what Pakistan cricket needs at that particular time. And then you have to have a person who has the command or delivering, who has the know-how. I mean, if you bring in people who haven't got the experience, they just extrapolate. I don't think things are going to happen for Pakistan cricket. And I would like to add one thing. In Pakistan, you have seen all the sports declining. We were at peak with hockey, squash, and everything. But this political structure in Pakistan has destroyed everything. So what I personally believe is, instead of the CEO of Pakistan making the decision, there should be a sports council. It should consist of former cricket administrators, hockey administrators, squash and all that, and the players. And they should select a guy, realizing what that particular sports need. I mean, Prime Minister is always going to get somebody in accommodation rather than on merit.
Okay. David, you heard what Aamer has to say, and you heard the clip also, and I'm assuming that you're already familiar with what they were talking about. And as I said, I find it empathetic. They even went, and I think the implication of what they were saying with reference to the big three is how India has basically almost captured the ICC, and given various geopolitical reasons, the Pakistan cricket has also suffered. But there is something intrinsically wrong also here, as Aamer pointed out. I want to get your view as a cricketer. as a commentator, as someone who loves cricket per se, Pakistan cricket, has watched Pakistan cricket for such a long time. What do you think is wrong, and whether this can be set right?
Ijaz, yes, there are myriad points here, I guess, some of which Nasser addressed, some of which Aamer has addressed as well. The question of stability is always important, I feel. I mean, England, as an example, over the last 3 years has had stability at the top. It's not a system that is plagued by too many people having too many opinions. We have a chairman and a chief executive who have a lot of experience in cricket, and they're non-political. This is one of the big differences. It's not a political appointment to be chairman of the English Cricket Board. We have a man, Rob Key, who played for England, not a lot, but enough, who's a very good thinker about the game, who's made some very good appointments in terms of the coaching staff, in terms of the captain. And at the moment, England cricket is enjoying all the benefits of that. So stability is one thing. The system that Aamer was referring to as well. To build a system, you need people with clarity of thought and direction. And you probably need, if you're chairman, I mean, for instance, current chairman, Mohsen Naqvi, needs the right people to advise him. I don't know who advises him. He's got a lot on his plate from other matters as the interior minister as well. But whoever's advising, whoever's driving what he wants to do has to be the right person as well. It's like any either political or, should we say, corporate appointment. Whatever your own opinions and abilities, you need the right people around you to make things happen. Now, the big point for me is this. You quite rightly brought up the big three, India being the big one of the big three. Because one of my current bugbears is the system, so-called, of distributing the vast amount of money that world cricket generates from things like World Cups. And there are so many World Cups going on now almost every day that there is a lot of money being generated largely from TV. Now, the way the system's been agreed by all those members at the moment is that what you put in, you kind of get out. So India, as the major contributor, is the major benefactor as well. Now, the reason I think this needs to change, although I understand why it was set up that way in the first place, is that the countries around the world that need a greater distribution are countries like Pakistan, like the West Indies, possibly like New Zealand, like Zimbabwe, because the distribution vaguely goes like this. 37, 38% of the money raised goes back to India. It's a lot of money. 2% comes to Pakistan, 2% goes to West Indies. 6% comes to the UK, 7% to Australia, or maybe the other way around. What I feel should happen is a new model which sends the money to the countries that need it most, because ICC, the international body that supposedly looks after cricket, should be thinking that in order to grow the game, but not just the game, maintain the game first. We're going to maintain it before you grow it. And for the countries that need the money, so for instance, talking specifically now about Pakistan, if you grow a system here, which allows club cricket to thrive, first-class cricket to have a meaningful existence, players to be incentivized to play it, facilities to be good around the country, that I'm afraid takes money. And a lot of that money is diverted in other directions. If they could change that model, so instead of 2%, maybe, I don't know, if anything from 5%, something from 10% could come to the countries that need it most, then that would provide finance that would allow systems to be developed. Because one of the most important things that any of us who like or love the game globally, one of the most important things is that the contest should be a fair one around the world. It's no use having 3 great sides and half a dozen weaker sides. You need as many as possible of the main nations to be competitive and strong. And so I think the changing of that model would be a very important step forward.
You want to add something to it, Aamer? I think David is making a lot of sense.
I'm in agreement, total agreement, because if what he said was to maintain the standard, that is very important. If you look at Namibia or other countries that you want them to be in international cricket, how about West Indies, where they are at the moment? They're really struggling. They were pride of cricket, and that's where ICC has to really look into.
Right. Now, I want to just focus, shift the focus back to the series. So we saw Pakistan's performance in the first test. And then, of course, we played the second test on the same track. We used to be envied in terms of how often and how frequently we produce these fast bowlers. And we suddenly end up with 5 spinners. We don't have any pace attack this side. Then we saw Kamran Ghulam get a century, which is great. But it's quite clear that in different weather conditions, on a different kind of pitch, he won't really last very long against fast attack, pace attack. So I'm just saying that while we won the second test, should there be concern among the selectors and long-time watchers like yourself, still advisors, that we need to sort of put together a different kind of team?
Is it for me?
Aamer, you go first. Aamer, you go first.
Thank you. Okay. The thing is, first of all, yes, the thinking was flawed. When you prepare for a series, you have plenty of time to plan. You glean the information and say, okay, these are the strengths of the opposition, and we're not going to allow them to play on their strengths. And you do otherwise. So the first test match, the pitch we saw, it actually suited the opposition, not Pakistan. So eventually, when they lost, they realized, well, we have to do something different. Yes, there is no harm. There is no harm in playing 3-4 spinners. There is no harm in going with 4 fast bowlers, blah, blah, blah. But if you want to compete outside of Pakistan, you got to have a balanced bowling attack. Yes, the reason why it was done, that we insisted on playing on the same strip which was used during the first test match. Pakistan has been desperate for a win, and Pakistan cricket fans, they were disassociating themselves with Pakistan cricket and Pakistan cricket team. You go on the road and you ask people, they say, no, we have stopped watching cricket. And that was alarming. And I think with Pakistan winning, you'll be able to connect fans back to cricket. And that win was needed. And I personally believe there is no harm in playing on a turning track. If the opposition is weak on a turning track, should do that, should play on that. Bangladesh, India, you talk about Sri Lanka, they play on turning tracks. When the Western teams, they come over. When India is there, they go to Palakkale and play there. Otherwise, they play almost every test match at Gower. Bangladesh, they win matches producing those turning tracks. And I think there is no harm in it.
Right. David and I was having this discussion about the asymmetric advantage last night. So it works in warfare. But my point really, David, is that when this team goes to New Zealand or Australia or England, different weather conditions, different kind of pitches, tracks, and that's where you need the balance, right? And it seems that most of our fast bowlers, and in fact, this is something that I had a discussion about with Aamer, and he was very critical of the fact that our fast bowlers, because they're playing so much of T20, really do not have the kind of stamina to do long spells in a test match. So my question to you is again the same in terms of this side that you've seen in 2 test matches. How do you think it would fare if, let's say, the 3rd test was happening in England?
Well, I would hope that home advantage would give the advantage to England if they were back in the UK right now. I mean, and that is, it's actually one of the things, curiously or ironically, that has changed slightly over the course of, say, the last 20 years, maybe more, is that because conditions around the world have become, in many ways, very similar, then touring sides that used to really struggle when they left their home environment have found things slightly more, I won't say easy, but slightly more comfortable when they've gone abroad. Because actually, for instance, a lot of, say, English pitches, unless they are deliberately left with a lot of grass on them, are perfectly good batting surfaces. favouring no one in particular. The point, I think your point is a strong one, though, that this current, I mean, for instance, that 11 that played the second test at Multan, you couldn't play that in Melbourne, Sydney, London, Birmingham. You couldn't play that 11 virtually anywhere else. I mean, that was a very specific team for a very specific set of circumstances. So, yes, it goes back a little bit, linked to the previous question. If you're going to develop talent across the country and develop all sorts of talent, batsmen, fast bowlers, spin bowlers, all-rounders, you need conditions that will at least allow that to happen. And when talent eventually comes through, because that's not a quick thing either, when talent eventually comes through, gaining experience in different countries is all part of it, as every cricketer in the world knows at this stage. But the fitness thing is interesting because so many of these players are involved across all formats. And Pakistan actually played a surprising number of test matches in the last year or so. But they also, the same players, the big players, the people actually, ironically, who were left out of that second test in Multan, the Babar Azams, the Shah Afridis, they play a lot of cricket in other formats. And eventually, I promise you, this builds up a sort of mental issue, because at some stage, even though people love playing the game, at some stage, you need to take a bit of a break just to free up the mind and rest the mind. So how you fit it all in is one of the big global problems, not just for Pakistan, but for all the sides around the world. I mean, going back to West Indies that we mentioned just now, one of their big problems is that so many of their star players play a lot of franchise cricket. The money is infinitely better than it is playing for the West Indies. So their loyalties go franchise first, West Indies second. And that's something we need to try and do our best to avoid, if at all possible, for the good of international cricket, be it short format or long format. But it takes time, as I say, in a nutshell, it takes time to develop players. Now, if we assume, or not assume, if we just take for granted, we have to, that the third and final test match of this current series is played in Delhi, on a pitch that doesn't have a reputation for doing an awful lot, to be honest. Well, the Pakistan side will have to change. The England side will probably change because they arrested a couple of people in Multan's second test match. So they have options in terms of the balance of their attack, whatever they see when they uncover that pitch in a few days' time. But for Pakistan alone, I mean, too many spinners, you don't need that many options in one part of the attack. So they could do with at least one more fast medium. We saw England used, even on that pitch in Multan, which was designed to be a turning track, how they used 3 different pacemen in ways, in short bursts, and got results which would have been actually more efficient if they'd caught the catches as well. I mean, I think every side wants a bit of balance. And if you're captaining a side, okay, even if you accept that your strength may be in spin bowling today, you want options so that for instance, if batsmen get used to to a certain form of attack, i.e. spin, you want to have an option at least someone a different sort of pace, different sort of style for even a short while. So balance overall is key, and that's something you'll need, that every side needs as it travels abroad.
Okay. Aamer, in theory, if we were to today get down to or get back to the drawing board, if you will, and say, okay, we're just going to revamp everything, do you think we need to build like 2.5 teams, like a team for T20, some of them playing ODI, test team, some of them playing ODI? Is that a better way of approaching it?
If you talk about longevity of fast bowlers, yes, you have to think about that. You have to have a different set of teams. But quite a few batters they will make into any format. So you have to think about the longevity of the fast bowlers. You have different sets of fast bowlers. England is the example. They have too many on the bench, and they have the luxury of playing one a test match and then giving him rest. And they use their fast bowlers in a proper manner, very delicately. So I think that can be thought about. But I want to add one thing here. What David was alluding to, Pakistan need to learn how to win test matches on a true pitch. We are way behind. If you talk about contemporary cricket, the other teams in the world, we are way behind. So we have to find a way to win matches on flat tracks or seaming tracks. If we don't learn that, yeah, maybe we are able to win test matches at home, creating those turning tracks. When we go abroad, we'll really struggle.
Okay, before I close this program, I have a more general question. As a watcher, as a spectator, specifically about T20. My observation is that the game has been configured in a way that it is supposed to benefit the batsman, so that the batsman, the shorter boundaries, the batsman can come out and play these pinch hits and the rest of it, clobber the bowlers. I'm not saying that batsmen always get the better of the bowlers, but I'm just saying that that's how the game is being configured. You really think that's fair? I mean, people obviously go gaga when they see all these big sixes and the rest of it. I know that Aamer is not really a big fan of big sixes. He's a great fan of technically proper shots, but people want all these like big sixes, and the batsmen are getting money out of every six that they play. But is that cricket really? It's to both of you.
I would ask David to go first, please.
Okay, David, you go first.
Okay. I think the realistic and maybe slightly conservative view of this is that what I call proper cricket is what we've been watching in these test matches. The battle between bat and ball, which, if it can be balanced, if it can be vaguely even, a contest between the two is fascinating to watch, tough to play, and satisfying for the players to get right. I'm come from an era, starting my professional cricket in the mid-70s, playing international cricket from 78 to 92, where test matches to me were all important. They were actually made me proud to be a test player and gave me all the incentives I needed to try and do well. The one-day games we played were, they ranged from sort of 55 then to 50 overs. We didn't have the shortest forms then, and the interest in that waned. So that's me. So obviously I'm going to take the view that Test cricket is all the more important. I'm going to point out that actually the great players in the world at the moment, would tend to say to you, if you ask them what is most satisfying about their career, if you ask them what figures they remember, they will tell you more about their Test careers than their one-day careers, their 50-over or 20-over careers. But, and it's an enormous but, it's a but with very, very big capital letters. If you talk to anyone involved in running the game, TV companies, cricket boards, even players, they will tell you that the data, this is DATA, in big letters again, tells you or tells them that what people want, yes, believe it or not, is franchise cricket, is 20-over cricket with all the thrills that it brings. When the obvious criticism of that is if you overdo it, it becomes so commonplace that it becomes absolutely meaningless. In a sense, it might even increase the value of Test cricket, which will become sidelined, therefore rarer, therefore become like gold. If you can't mine it easily, it becomes more gold worth, more gold value. But the danger is that white ball cricket will take over the calendar, will take up the bulk of the time, and that actually all these arguments about Test cricket and how you prepare a side for Test cricket will almost become academic because there'll be so little of it in 10 years' time, maybe. So I think for people like me, people that value the game at its best, it is a battle worth fighting. It is a point worth making that actually still around the world. And in England, we still get good crowds for Test match cricket. For lots of different reasons. But around the world, people follow it, even don't necessarily go and watch it. Yeah. Whereas the irony is people go and watch T20 cricket, but if you're not involved, I don't follow it. I mean, I don't look at every league score around the multiple franchise leagues around the world. I don't check up on all those because I want to. I ignore them because I have no interest. And that's a very personal thing, obviously. But the threat is this, that we like diversity in the game. We like the different challenges. That's absolutely right. So if you're going to preserve that diversity, you need to fight as much for Test cricket as you do for the rugby by T20 franchise cricket. And in terms of what you were asking about, the balance between bat and ball in that, well, there are times where pitches have life and the ball does more than normal, and the bowlers actually have a moment or two to try and take a wicket, as opposed to Test cricket where, by and large, more of a chance of working your way through a batting lineup by skill and dedication and application, all the things that you need for Test match cricket. But the data will say that all those fans out there paying their money to TV companies who in turn pay all their money to the respective boards in billions of dollars, they all say that actually like to see the ball going for six. So while that appetite needs to be sated, until they become bloated and full of noxious diseases, it's going to be there.
Seems like that's the only appetite being sated now. But Aamer,
look, my take is yes, it was a great idea to use T20 cricket as a tool to introduce this game to all and sundry. But the problem is, yes, we have been able to attract so many people towards this game. It has grown exponentially. There is no doubt about it. But at the same time, this has hurt Test match cricket in our countries. Our fans remained fans of T20 cricket. They didn't actually go to the next notch to become an aficionado of the game. That's where we are struggling. When you go and watch Test match cricket in England, packed houses. You go to Australia, packed houses. Even in South Africa. But when you talk about subcontinent, maybe few grounds they pack up in India. But what is the norm in our countries is not many people they turn up to actually enjoy the nitty-gritties of the game. So that's where T20, like David said, I think overdose, maybe, or anything.
Absolutely, it's overdose. It's everyone is ODing on T20, but it was great to have both of you stars. Nazreen, आपने देखा डेविड गावर, मोहम्मद आमिर सोहेल, दोनों क्रिकेट के जो है वो स्टार्स हैं। मैं ये चाह रहा था कि कुछ मुझे भी थोड़ा सा हासिल हो जाए इस हवाले से कि क्रिकेट की जो बारीकियां वो उनके बारे में, और कुछ जो सवालात मेरे अपने भी थे एक जो है वो क्रिकेट देखने वाले के हवाले से, मैं चाह रहा था कि उनको उनके सामने रखा जाए और उनका जो नुक्ता नज़र है वो लिया जाए, और इस हवाले से भी कि इस वक्त जो पाकिस्तान की क्रिकेट की जो सूरत हाल है उसके ऊपर भी थोड़ा सा तबसरा हो जाए। बहरहाल गुफ्तगू की अगली नशिस्त के साथ मैं आपकी खिदमत में हाजिर होऊंगा। तब तक के लिए इजाज़त दीजिए और अपना बहुत ख्याल रखिए। खुदा हाफिज़।